Our next fireside chat talks about asset management and how tokenization might reshape the entire landscape. Please welcome Jean-Jacques Barbéris and Adrien Vanheule to the stage.
Well, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us for this session. So for the next 20 minutes or so, we're going to explore how tokenization is reshaping the asset management industry and what lies ahead for the sector. So amongst the players that have stepped in the tokenization area in recent months, Amundi has been very active with 2 blockchain fund issuance in the last 5 months, including one last month on Ethereum and Stellar. So therefore, I'm delighted to be joined on stage by Jean-Jacques Barbéris, Deputy CEO of Amundi and Head of Institutional and Corporate at Amundi, to discuss the firm's strategy. Jean-Jacques, welcome on stage. Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you very much.
So it seems that Amundi has really gone past the proof of concept phase in tokenization now. So my first question would be about the development of Amundi right now. How could tokenization help develop your business?
Thank you very much, and it's a pleasure being here. Thanks. I wouldn't say that we are beyond the proof of concept, because I think it's very important to be modest there, and so to be a little humble. I think we're still in the learning curve, to be clear, but what is true is that we've passed a number of steps. And if I may, before entering into your question, if I take a little step back, because I think that's why these type of events are important, where they're mixing traditional financial players, such as we are, and the new ones, is to look a little bit at history and what are we trying to achieve there. And here, as we're in France, I would like to quote something. So it's a little boomer, 1980. So a number of the people in that very room were not born yet. Was created a commission that was chaired by a very respected person, Mr. Lapérouse, who was the CEO of Caisse des Dépôts et Consignations. And the entire job of this gentleman at the commission he was chairing was about dematerializing the securities, because at the time it was still on paper. And there was one recommendation that took off that commission, and I quote, I'm going to make it in French and then to translate it. Il faudra un routage immédiat des ordres de bourse et de leur exécution. There will be a need for an immediate execution of orders. Avec authentification de l'heure de la transaction, authentifying the hour of the transaction, and everything with the support of informatique, everything with the support of IT. Basically, you can take that exact same sentence, translate it today, replace the final word by blockchain, and it's probably where we are. Meaning, at a moment where the revolution that we are in is the change of the full plumbery of the financial system by the use of the blockchain. And so that's a little bit how we think about it at Amundi, trying to learn and to make our first tests. So what we do at the moment is really trying progressively to go on-chain for some on our offering, and indeed trying also to answer to the requests of our clients that at the moment are mostly corporates, and I can come back to that in a few seconds.
So let's talk about the client demand, because I guess that your existing clients are just wondering what's going on in the tokenization space right now and are looking at all the initiatives. So what are your clients telling you? What are they asking for in tokenization? For example, from an institutional perspective, what are institutional clients waiting for in the tokenization space when talking to you?
But something I think important to understand from where we're seeing the subject, it's not about crypto. And for some players in the room that might seem bizarre, but our clients, it's not on the crypto side of the equation that they come to us, for the corporates in particular. What they're interested in is within the underlying technology. And just, I think it's important to look at it. So what they're looking at is, for instance, if I put myself in the shoes of a corporate treasurer going forward, what she or he is interested in is having a digital portfolio where basically he or she can pilot his own cash allocation under digital format, ultimately allowing the transfers of cash between his different entities on the multinational level, and having the capacity to go in and out, for instance, for cash management products, fully on-chain, without the obligation that is still there at the moment to go back to fiat money or to fiat currency. So ultimately, I think that's the goal. Okay. And so what they're interested in, for sure, is all the associated benefits from the technology, meaning the potential 24 hours, 7-day, instant settlements, and reduction, of course, of the settlement. So I think that's the first category of client demand. The second will come more for, I would say, the clients that are interested in collateral management, because for sure, potentially, the technology has the possibility to make the whole collateral management immensely more efficient. And so this is the two types of demands that we see at the moment. And the third one is more for distribution side. And this is, for instance, I don't know if our friends of Spyco are in the room, but the partnership that we had, that we've created with the French fintech Spyco, it's about also the capacity to distribute existing funds that were not spontaneously accessible to small clients, for instance, because the ticket size was too high. And thanks to the techno, basically, the fragmentation, the fractioning that is allowed allows an access for €1 to a product that historically would have requested 10,000 minimum to access to. And so also the democratization of some asset classes and funds via the fractioning and the techno is a way to enhance distribution going forward.
So let's talk about the asset classes that can be tokenized, because obviously money market funds are the first way to go into tokenization for asset managers. But when I look into private assets, even equities, how can we tokenize these assets? And is there a real challenge here for you to get on, further on, outside of money market funds?
And I would say first, I think it's important to call a spade, as we say in English, which is at the moment, at least in Europe, what we are tokenizing are share classes of existing funds. So basically, we are representing on-chain, I would say, digital what exists physically. But so far, we've not yet gone to the point where the underlying is on-chain, which I think is a very important nuance, because a full on-chain fund, which may be the future, I don't know, we can discuss that, will depend on the capacity, of course, to go on-chain for the share classes and the access, etc., but also of the underlying. And so, answering to a question, before, I would say, envisaging alternative asset classes or other, I think that's the first element we're looking at the moment. So clearly, the demand that we see so far is more for liquidity, cash management type of products. The next phase for that, from my perspective, is the access to these share classes that are tokenized through digital representation of cash, namely stablecoins. And the step afterwards will be going on-chain from the underlyings. And so these are the different steps that we see going forward. Have we seen so far, for instance, a demand for, I would say, equities under digital representations? At our level, not yet. Okay. That may come. Liz, that may be in the room, has made a first, I would say, issuance under blockchain recently, which I think is an interesting thing to look at. But so far, we do not see demand there.
And do you share the idea that tokens will make some asset classes more liquid? I'm thinking here of private assets, for example.
I think I'm going to answer to your question, but taking a little step back, I think it's very important to understand that, yes, indeed, the technology allows potentially some very deep changes in the traditional financial system. This being said, there are some, and sorry, I'm maybe a little conservative there, but there are some fundamental elements of how markets are working that are going to stay. If I take an example, if someone in this room is happy to trade, I would say, a full on-chain money market fund Saturday night, 3 o'clock in the morning, cool. If she or he doesn't find a potential buyer or seller in front, the bid-ask is going to happen. Why am I saying that? It's because it's not because you are digitalizing / fractioning, I would say, assets that are illiquid, that the underlying is going to become liquid again. And so fundamentally, maybe we will see that happening, but the liquidity premium associated to the underlying, et cetera, from my perspective, ultimately will remain. And I think it's a super element to keep in mind that some of the fundamental elements of how markets are working are rules that will continue even under a full on-chain format.
And just getting back on market infrastructure, do you think here is the real challenge for market infrastructure to evolve?
For sure, what is clear, when I was using the expression, it's a full change of the plumbary. Huh? I do mean it. Huh? It's if you have, I would say, a rail that is fully on-chain, it's not the same. Indeed, for instance, if you try to execute a repo on-chain, which is something that has been done now for a number of years, huh? In the US, I think the first one was in 2023, you have indeed, I would say, another rail to be organized, I would say, at all levels. Mm-hmm. So for an entity of our kind between, I would say, the trading, the middle, et cetera, and of course, ultimately, at the end of the day, the infrastructures. So will this have an impact on the existing infrastructure? For sure. If you take, for instance, the question of settlement, if you go to basically instant settlement and not T+1 or whatever, that has very strong implications for CSDs, for CCPs, for the whole organization of the, I would say, of the derivative market, et cetera. So yes, indeed, associated to the technology, you have a relatively deep change of, I would say, all the traditional rails that were relying on fiat money and assets that were not on-chain.
And just around the payment of tokenized funds, which model would you like to implement further on? I mean, would you go hybrid? Would you go with stable coins? Or, I mean, any?
Sorry, I don't have, I would say, an absolute answer on that, because I think at the moment, as I was saying, we strongly believe that we need to test different things. Mm-hmm. And we don't know what will be ultimately the market solution. And so we need to be extremely open. So at this stage, my personal opinion on that would be that we need to be flexible and to look at hybrid formats. Mm-hmm. So to be clear, at this point in time, if you want to access to a share class tokenized money market fund of Amundi, you're going to access it through fiat money. Mm-hmm. There is not yet the possibility to access it through digital representation of cash, such as stable. Is it a way forward? Potentially. Will we limit ourselves to one stable coins or not? I don't know. I tend to believe that it's more interesting to be open and to be in capacity to accept different ones. By the way, that's one of the reasons, for those who do not know, Amundi, with the largest asset manager in the world that is not American, first, and second, we're an entity of the group Crédit Agricole. And the group has decided to issue its stablecoin itself as well. Will tomorrow Amundi money market fund accept the Crédit Agricole stablecoin under regulatory approval, et cetera, probably. So I think hybrid models, that is, by the way, more what our clients are asking us to do, mm-hmm. is from my perspective the way forward, but we'll see at this stage. I think we're very open about it.
And do you feel that asset managers should unify themselves, together to accelerate on the tokenization trend? Sharing practices and, emerging initiatives.
I doubt that asset managers can unify themselves because it's a very fragmented industry overall. No, what I do believe is that as we're in Paris and in Europe, there is a need for the European players on the asset management side, we're the largest, I would say, to share, to discuss, and to forge common views. So in France at the moment, the authorities, so the central bank, the French FSA, the Treasury, have decided to organize the work, I would say, between all market participants to think what could be the way forward on tokenization. I think it's a very good initiative. In a way, it's the Lapérouse Commission 46 years afterwards. Huh? And I do think it's a very good thing. Will there be a full unification or whatever? I doubt. Will there be some convergences because of the techno? Probably. I think it's way too soon to say. Again, at this stage, I think we need to be extremely open and also to showcase that at European levels, we're a number of players that are also demonstrating that we're ready to embrace that challenge going forward and that we do not leave it to the Americans only.
Just one question around ESG, because I know that is a theme that you like to talk about as well. Just simply, tokenization and ESG, I mean, what does it work for you?
It's not a subject I like to talk about, it's a subject that I like to do about, because we're very proud, I think, to be the largest net zero asset manager in the world. And we've demonstrated a lot, I would say, of capacities and firepower on that front. I would make a very brutal nuance. Personally, and sorry if I may shock some people in the room, I've never invested €1 in crypto for plenty of reasons. Bitcoin is an asset class that I would say is challenging from an environmental perspective. It's not the tokenization and the underlying technology, it's a little different subject. So I think it's super important not to mix the two, which often is the case. I don't think crypto and tokenization, the underlying technology is the same, okay, but they're different subjects and the challenges associated with are different. And that's true as well for the environmental questions associated with it.
And so amongst all the use cases that Amundi has explored into tokenizations, what is going to be the next step for Amundi? What are going to be the next priorities?
Well, I think first, we are monitoring our existing initiatives. So for instance, the Sappho product that we launched in partnership with Spyco, if I'm not mistaken, I think in 3 weeks is the biggest, I would say, inflow generator on tokenized format ever. So cool, let's continue on that. Second, we will continue to, I would say, tokenize new share classes of funds, money markets in particular, answering to the demand of our clients. Third, as I was mentioning, there is the question of the access to our funds through fiat money or other type of digital representations of cash. And I think these are the first 3 steps. And then we are very happy to participate to collective initiatives in Europe, at French level, but not only, on how will look the tokenization of underlying assets. So for instance, our central bank has launched a pilot program to, I would say, engage the tokenization of short-term papers, so new CPs, gathering investors, investment banks, issuers to go there. We're very happy to participate there because it means that tomorrow our tokenized money market funds may see part of their lines that are going on-chain as well. And therefore, we go to a next phase. That's why as well, we're listening to what, for instance, the ECB is doing, accepting some collateral under tokenized formats. And so that's, for me, the way forward. We are not there yet, to be clear, collectively, but that's what we are going to be implicated into going forward.
And so one last very quick questions around investor education as well to tokenization. How important is that going to be for Amundi to educate institutional, corporates, and retail also investors?
I think first we need to continue to educate ourselves before pretending educating anyone. That's why I'm happy to be part of the event as well, because I think it's a great place to learn. No, I think honestly at the moment vis-à-vis our clients, it's really it's a very interesting moment because it's a way some of our clients, they're asking us to test things with us, create a feedback loop to say, okay, this is what we did. What do you want? What is the next step going forward, etc. Even with, I would say, I would call more traditional asset owners, insurance companies or whatever, we start to see questions on, okay, how can we access to that just to test the operational chains? How does it work? And so I think, honestly, it's really a learning by doing process in close interaction with our clients. That's what makes the thing relatively exciting going forward. But at this stage, I wouldn't pretend that we're educating anyone. I think we're participating to a collective process into which we learn a lot as well from the clients we're discussing with and the people of the ecosystem.
Well, I think that's going to be the final word. Thank you very much, Jean-Jacques, for sharing your insights with us.
Welcome to Signal Room.